Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you all of my favorite Halloween crochet patterns. So I'm going to start with all the free patterns and then I'll have a few towards the end that are some paid patterns as well. There may be a few items as I show that I will have affiliated in the description, so definitely take a look at that. It helps me out when you guys purchase anything from that list. I really would appreciate it if you guys could help me with that. I'm trying to stay with Amazon's affiliated program and I only have about a month left to stay on it, and if I don't make 3 purchases before end of November, I will have to resubmit my affiliation. So if you guys can, that would help me a ton in that process. But without further ado, let's get started and I'll show you guys all these patterns. So the first pattern is probably one of my most favorite. I've made several of these. These are what I like to call teddy bear pumpkin. I've done them in all sorts of colors. They're super cute. And I will definitely have down below where I've gotten my safety eyes and hopefully noses. I've kind of played around with different size noses over the years, but I definitely have been ordering a lot of these, so I will have those listed down below because they are super cute, and the more colors and stuff can add to different characters. So this pattern is by 5 Little Monsters. All of these patterns I will have linked down in the description as well, so that you guys can hop onto everybody's websites or purchasing their patterns. I'm all about sharing and giving people credit where it's due. But I definitely loved this pattern. So I'll set this guy off to the side here. The fun thing about this pattern is it's worked in the round. So very similar to the ball pattern I've shown you guys. So you start working in the round and then you'll continue by attaching the head. So you'll work the body and the head as one entire piece. You just do your color changing. And then you'll have your legs, your arms, your ears, your nose, and then you'll have the little top to attach. So it's I say it's a fairly easy pattern, especially as you're working in the round. It just has a few pieces of sewing which can be a little intimidating, but I think, you don't even have to do the top if you don't want. I've even done some in the past because I've made these for babies, so I left out the noses and the eyes and I've sewn on. It's not my most preferred way, but I can show a picture of me doing one of the ones I did that looked like that, but you could totally do it that way as well, or even do felt. I'll show some pieces for as we go along that I've done with felt as well. So you don't have to do safety eyes. That's the most common, but you don't have to. But definitely think these are pretty cute to make, and not just for Halloween, definitely for fall too, because it's got that pumpkin vibe going. But definitely one of my favorites. So the next one on my list, I kind of call it the crochet ghost couple. That is not what the pattern is. The pattern actually is just this ghost by itself, and the pattern credit goes to Cafe Del Craft, if I said that correctly, or it's just the regular ghost. I believe I saw somewhere where somebody did, bows and I don't know. I don't even remember. I just know I had to dig to figure out where on earth I got the idea to do the bow. I guess I saw it in a picture or just got the idea of I wanted, a boy and a girl. The bow actually comes from a completely different pattern by Lindsay at Winding Row Crochet. She has a different ghost that has a bow, but I needed this size bow, and so I borrowed it from that pattern. So I will have that pattern as well, but it's just the bow that I used from that. So I kind of picked and choose with that. but I've kind of created them to be more like this. And for some reason, when I made this one, he's supposed to be a little more ruffly, so I don't know what I did wrong there, but it makes him a lot more masculine. Because this is another one I did with glow-in-the-dark yarn, so this will glow in the dark, and he's got a lot more that ghost look. So I think he just missed out on that when I was crocheting. I must have messed up. It does happen, guys. Messing up does happen, and sometimes I don't even realize it until I look at it. So you can have fun with doing glow in the dark. I'm not exactly sure where I got mine at Joann's, which we don't have anymore. I'm sure you could go online. I think Amazon has a few. I don't know how trustworthy it is when it comes to glowing in the dark. I haven't tried it myself. But all this was Lion brand glow in the dark yarn. So if you can get a hold of that, that's what I used for my glow in the dark ghost here. And maybe I'll show a clip of it glowing in the dark so I can show you guys it actually does glow in the dark. So you can do lots of fun things with these guys, like a boy and a girl, or just a bunch of girls. I've even done some with the felt eyes. I have a whole bunch. I didn't show any for this specifically. But with the girl ghost, I have played around with doing, this is, I believe, Chanel yarn, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but I haven't really worked with it a whole lot just because it's very expensive to come across, and even just getting my hands on it. I'm more of an acrylic user. I do like how soft it is, but it is tricky working in the round, personally. But I did play around. It's the same pattern, just with the thicker yarn. But I thought it turned out kind of cute because, I don't know, it gives a different vibe. But not the pure white, it's more cream. So I think it turned out pretty cute though. So you can definitely play around with different sizes, just know it's going to be a lot bigger. Alright, next up is candy corn. So I've done quite a few of these. I had to remake some because I sold a lot of my candy corn in my shop, which, by the way, is linked down below. So any of these items you see in this video, they are in my shop and are available as supplies last, because sometimes my items may not be available because I only have so many of everything. But when I did make the first one, so this is my Indian corn here, because I played around with these. This one does not seem to be quite as popular as the candy corn because I still haven't sold it. But I did do much smaller eyes, and then this time I did the bigger eyes, and I do think it looks a lot cuter. I don't remember what the pattern said specifically, but the pattern credit goes to Grace and Yarn. So definitely check out, because I do not follow hook sizes, and I do not follow what eye sizes to use. I just use whatever I have and what's available and what I'm in the mood to do. So definitely make sure you see what her pattern says, because I honestly don't remember what it says on the top of my head. But you can definitely play around with different colors too. You don't necessarily have to do the candy corn traditional colors. You could even, I don't know, get rainbow or whatever. That's the fun thing about creating, is you really can do whatever you want. So another thing you can try doing, here's an example of, I used felt instead, just because I wanted to see if people would prefer felt over the safety eyes if they were buying them for their kids. And I'm not 100%, I think I might have used whiteout, but this is kind of like a paint. So this would not be something that would be machine washable or washable at all, because that would wash right off probably. So that's a possibility. I just did that to give it kind of the same effect that these have, where they get that little shine. But those are fun to make, and they work up pretty quickly. And it's good practice if you're doing color changing as well. So fun stuff with those. Alright, next up is our little pumpkin here. I really loved this one when I saw the picture from the pattern, because it had all the different grooves, and it just looked really cute. It looked really different from any pumpkin that I had made up until this one. So it was really, really fun to make. So this one is by Stringy Ding Ding. Very cute, very fun. I don't remember a whole lot about this other than the fact that I remember making this, and it was just so cute, and being able to make it look just like the picture was really cute too. Pretty sure it was a fairly easy to follow pattern as well. So make a bunch of these as well. So yeah, fun little guy. Alright, next up I've got my Halloween themed bees. So we'll start with this candy corn one. So it's got all the different kind of colors while also keeping his little stripes. So this bee pattern credit goes to Ariana Crafting Happiness, which I believe both of these came from her. She had two different. She did a bunch of bee patterns, I believe is what it was. Like this one I followed exactly from her small bee pattern, and then I think I looked up some pictures on how to make it look like a zombie, because I just didn't care much for the other ones I was looking at online. I wanted it to just look, I wanted the black to be more defined. I think some only just show it a small line, so I just followed her pattern for a regular bee to do this one. But I love making the bees. They seem to sell really well as well, because I can't seem to keep these in my shop. So, but it's also fun to get that color changing and just something that's kind of fun and cute. Alright, so this is a little on the different side, I think. I did a bunch of eyeballs. So this pattern is Hooked by Katie, which she has a whole bunch of really cool free patterns on her website as well when it comes more towards Halloween and dragons and things like that. I found that there was a lot of really cool things she has on her website. But I wanted to do something that was a little different, and these were kind of fun. You can do all sorts of, I think it was just, you choose whatever color you want. I don't think it was any specific colors. And then you kind of just add these however you want as well. But it was fairly simple to follow. Very easy for any beginner, especially when you're just learning that in the round. You're just adding a bunch of color changing. So very fun, very cool. I usually will play with these and put them in like a jar or something. It's a good decor piece as well. Right, this one's my bat. I could not find exactly where my notes were for when I made this. So I have no idea if the pattern I have is the correct one. It looks similar to the one I have here. So that's why I'm guessing that that's the one. But I've looked everywhere in my notebooks and could not find the notes for it. So if I happen to find those notes, I will fix in the description what the pattern is. But what I have written down is this pattern was on Instagram, and I will tag that person down below. But like I said, if it changes and it's not Instagram anymore, it's because I found the actual pattern. But I can't say a whole lot about this other than I was really impressed with how it turned out. I think it turned out really cute. I haven't been a huge fan of, not that I don't think that anybody's work and what they've designed is not good. I'm very particular with what I will crochet, and so I was pretty proud with how cute this turned out, because I really am on the cuter side with things, and so I felt like this turned out more of what I wanted it. So if you're wanting to make something very similar to this, go for it. I'm not sure why, but I have a thread here that I need to tuck in. But yeah, I know it was pretty time consuming just because of the size. And it looks like I had to do double and sew things together and things like that. But I think the more time you spend on something, the more worth it is in detail and overall. But this guy's pretty cute, so I was pretty proud with this one. Definitely fun to make. And of course, we've got my jack-o'-lantern pumpkins here. There's nothing super duper fancy about these. I mean, I kind of talk about it in my video. I mean, you can make them bigger or smaller. It's about how many chains you do and then how many rows. And then I do the little felt ties and you know, you play around with what kind of stems you want to do. I've done them in a lot of different colors and sizes, so not a whole lot to explain here, but pretty basic. But I just had to include them because it is part of my little Halloween collection of things that I have made and have enjoyed making. So I'll link my video for, you know, all the different things that go with this type of project, because I got videos on how I do all of this. But pretty fun. And then I've got my little ghost here. This one is also by Five Little Monsters, so the one that did the teddy bear pumpkin. She has a whole bunch of super cute stuff. I tend to fall in love with most of her patterns because she's always coming out with new patterns, and they're most likely always free. So this one was just a little ghost, because I had done the ghost couple, and then I wanted to do something that had, like, this had a little tail on the bottom, and it just looked like it would be a fun little cute thing that you can just, you know, have this little guy, you know, tucked into something or propped up with something. So it's fun to kind of have a variety. And he has these little arms. I think all of it's worked in one except for the arms. So fairly beginner friendly project for sure. Alright, this one is a little ghost walking his or her dog. I don't think I chose a gender for this one, but that one was pretty cute. I did this one in glow in the dark yarn as well when I was playing around, because I had never used it before, so it was kind of fun to do that. This pattern credit goes to Once Upon a Cheerio. So I think the only thing that was most challenging, I think, was working just on to get it to have these little ripples and stuff. I could do lots of like increasing and decreasing in it. I can't really remember because I honestly made this last year, so it's been a while. But I don't think it's really complicated. It's more so that you just have to pay attention, because when you're doing things like this, it's just usually a lot of little spots that are different. It's not all the same. But I thought this was a fun little thing, especially for those dog lovers out there. Alright, this one was definitely not what I would say a beginner friendly project. This was very the more challenging level. It had a lot of parts to it as well. But this pattern goes back to Hooked by Katie again. So with this, I think this was a whole separate piece, and then you put this, so you do like the black, and then this, I think you crochet on top of it or attach it. I honestly don't remember, because like I said, this was a while ago. And hers, she had much bigger eyes. I don't have eyes any bigger than the typical, you know, black ones that are slightly bigger, but she has one that were about this big and colored and looks super cute. So mine looks a lot smaller than what hers is, but everything else should be about the same as hers. And then I believe I put a wire or pipe cleaner or something, because the tail only bends because I put that in there. But yeah, this was a very time-consuming project, so this is something you'll definitely want to put a lot of time and have that set aside, because this is not something I think you'll be able to get done very quickly, because I didn't, because you have to do each of these and this and then the eggshell. But it was so fun when it was coming together and putting it together, because it was very different and something I'd never done, and very out of my comfort zone and just different. But I think he turned out pretty fun. So good job, Katie. Next up we have our little Frankie Pop. So it's like a little fidget toy for kids. So it'll pop up, and it's pretty fun. This pattern credit goes to Cables and Canvas, and you can get this pattern here on YouTube. So it is a free pattern. Fairly easy when it comes to just basic crochet, and then you got a little bit of color changing, and then you have the little bolts on the side that you attach. You'll make those and then you attach them on the side. I went ahead and did googly eyes because I made a bunch of these last Halloween and handed them out for our trunk or treat. And it was just a lot easier and more convenient for me because of just making so many and not having enough of the eyes. So this was easier to get googly eyes than to have all the little teeny eyes, safety eyes. But you can do whatever you want. I do have more that I have made from cables and canvas, but it's a paid pattern, so I can show you that, but that'll be towards the end of the video. So these are kind of fun to play with just because they go pop. Last year though, when you turn them this way, they kind of look like Martians. Because some of the kids would play with them this way, and I'm like, they kind of look like a Martian. So you can kind of go either way with them, really. I guess if you added a face, which I can't remember if she did or not, but I kind of left mine like this. So you can go both ways, I guess, with these little Frankensteins. Alright, so that was a lot more of my like stuffies and plushies. So now I'm going to be jumping into some more wearable items. So this one's a little too big to put on camera. I'll have a picture of it. But this one is a shawl. And the creator, Bago de Crochet here on YouTube, she has a whole bunch of wonderful shawls. This one was actually not a Halloween focused in her tutorial. I'm not actually sure what her name for her shawl was, but like I said, I can link it and tag that video. But when I saw her make this shawl, immediately I thought, oh, this kind of gives like Halloween bat vibes. And so I was like, I'm going to make mine gray or black. I can't remember at the time, but I think I had a bunch of gray, so that's why I did it in gray. And made it more kind of Halloween-y. But it's also just a simple shawl at the same time, so it doesn't have to be for Halloween. But I wanted to leave it as a possibility that if somebody wanted to have something that was Halloween vibes, but also could have something all year round for those Halloween spooky vibe people out there. So this was pretty simple. I find all of Bago de Crochet's tutorials very simple to follow with her shawls. So I don't say that this would be beginner, but because she's so good at explaining how to do things and you can follow along, you could pick up on it, because I started with Bago de Crochet when I first started crocheting. So if you want to, definitely go for it if you're a beginner, because you can keep playing the video and she shows everything super well. So definitely check that out if you're interested in doing a shawl. And like I said, you saw the picture, you saw kind of what it looks like. It's just so big I can't show it on camera like that. Next up, I've got these treat bags. These were designed by Left in Knots. So I had fun making these. They're definitely challenging if you're not used to doing the color changing. I know I've only covered one video on that. I can cover more. I can't use this specific pattern because I don't own it, but I can do something very similar. If you guys are wanting to do more color changing, I can come up with some very similar ideas. These are much smaller than I anticipated, so they're not my favorite when it comes to size. I've always thought about making them slightly bigger just because, you know, if your kids are trick-or-treating and stuff, I do find that maybe a slightly larger bag. But I love the concept of having it say trick-or-treat and the pumpkin and stuff like that. They're just on one side that you sew together, the two. But I love how cute they are. I just wish they would have been slightly bigger. So I don't know if that was more on my fault or if it was more of just that was how the pattern was. But just something to keep in mind, because this is about how big mine turned out, so they're not very big. But definitely very cute. And if you want a smaller bag, it's perfect for that too. I mean, one of these did end up slightly smaller too. This one ended up actually a lot smaller. So it might have been just my tension or the hook I was using specifically. but very fun. Definitely check this pattern. Alright, still in the bag category. This one was fun because after doing something a little complicated like that, this one was nice because it wasn't quite as complicated and it worked up a little faster. I believe this is all done in half double crochet. So if you want to practice that and some color changing, this is a good bag for that. But it's kind of fun, just kind of small. I think she did a different effect on attaching these, where she did like a square and then a cross. I think I just sewed it on because I just wanted it simple. So the pattern credit for this candy corn bag is Alexis Middleton. So I think it was a very nice pattern to follow. Very basic. Alright, this bag's a little big to show, so I'll try and my best. I can also, like I said, show it as a picture of it in this video. So this one is the ghost bag, and I always say granny squares. I know these are totally not granny squares, but my mind always wants to think granny squares when it comes down to stuff like this. But this pattern credit goes to Divine Debris. So you do make all these different, you make, I don't remember exactly how many, but you make one ghost going this way and then you make a ghost going that way. But there's only 2 directions. And inside the bag you can see the ghosts on the inside. Oops, I have a thread there I didn't cut. Typically with bags, I've been getting into lining them, but this one I definitely haven't messed with because I like the idea that you can still see the ghost on both sides. But this was a very time-consuming project, and it does do a lot of the color changing, so if you're open to that, go for that. I think I have some that are different here too, where I have the smiley face and then the open. I think that was part of her pattern. And it's on this side too. That looks like you do a bunch of different little ones like that. And I used a sparkly black yarn on here. I don't know if you guys can tell. Just to kind of add that Halloween dark night type stuff. So definitely a fun pattern for sure. And you get lots of practice with the color changing because you're doing it so many times. Alright, well this one is unfinished. I saw a picture of this bag. I believe it was by Crafty Concept. And it was super cute. Because I love the idea of doing the little bobble stitches like this. And it's supposed to be kind of like that. But when I made this and then was following along the pattern and then saw that you had to do this as the back and then like sew it all together, I wasn't a huge fan of that. I don't know why. I just don't like the idea of having to do this and I don't know. I had already done a bag similar, and so I guess I was hoping that it would be a very similar concept, but it wasn't. And so I tweaked it. So no hate to a Crafty Concept. It just wasn't the direction I was wanting to go. So if you're wanting to try her pattern, go for it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I just wasn't a huge fan of doing the 2 pieces. But I do have to give credit because she inspired me to do a little bit more for mine. So I did follow a different pattern, but still kind of following this concept because it is the bobble look. And then I did the pumpkin on the front. And I believe that's exactly what hers looks like as well. But like I said, I did tweak. So the pattern I ended up being inspired by was Hooked Me. She has a rainbow bag that I purchased. So this is purchase pattern. from Hooked Me, and I still followed some from this one and some from Hooked Me. So I'll have to look at the notes and let you guys know what things I might have tweaked and all that. I know I modified the top here because the original bag did not have a way to close this. And so I kind of created my own with the stem because I felt like, you know, a bag does need to close. So I did that with this one. And she also, a Crafty Concept, she had a ghost one, very similar. I think it was pretty much the exact same thing except for the bottom, because she did those little things. I can't ever think of what they're called, for the little ghosts on the bottom, the ruffle things. So I still followed the exact same way that I did this one with this one, and I felt like it helped with the little ghost things on its own. I didn't do any clasp with this one. I didn't see a reason to. The stub made sense with that one. But, yeah, I liked more of how this turned out than this. Because it was all, with the way Hooked Me does hers, it's this whole thing. So if I were to put these two together, it's basically all of this worked, and then you fold it, and then attach, and then make your little thing. So I like this idea better, and that's why I wanted to follow Hooked Me's pattern than following this pattern. So nothing wrong with it, because I obviously still made the bag similar to what hers would have been, but both will be mentioned in the comments or in the description down below, and my notes to kind of help you guys follow with what I did. If you prefer to do what I did too, I will try to put those in there as well if I'm allowed to, because I have to respect other people's patterns as well. But I hope I made sense with all that, because it is something that I play around with a lot. Is when I'm making a pattern, I find, like I just said with the ghost, I find things I like, but I don't know how to do that on my own, so I will take little parts from people's patterns and just kind of create. Sometimes I'll take like 3 or 4 other patterns and then create something. Still something I do quite frequently. So that's how I work, guys. But nonetheless, thank you, Crafty Concept, because you did inspire me, and I went a lot further with it. So I definitely always appreciate patterns, even though I don't always follow them, because they definitely inspire me to do much more or to tweak things. So I never want to say anything negative about a creator, because we all do something different, and we all have our own different things that we like or don't like. And that's why we have so many patterns and so many creations. So I never want to hate on someone's pattern and say that what they did was wrong, because that's not the case. I just preferred a different method, and that's what I did instead. Alright, so I did go and look at my notes, and I was comparing all the patterns and the things I had done. And I didn't really follow either one of these patterns. I had modified and made my own just from the concept of these two patterns. So there will not be a pattern just from looking at these two. So I will have to do a tutorial for you guys. I really hope I can get this going before Halloween. It is coming up rather quickly. So if I can get it up before Halloween, be watching for that. If not, it'll probably be a little late, but at least you can get started on it for next year, or have it for next year. I just didn't realize when I was looking that there just will not be a realistic way for you guys to look at either of the patterns and I'd be like, oh, this row was this and this row was from this, and I didn't want to be able to make it so you guys can make these if you are wanting to make them. I just didn't realize that I had created my own pattern. So that's my life. Alright, continuing on with some paid patterns here. So this one is our little buddy Zero from The Nightmare Before Christmas. So we're doing at my house a Night Before Christmas themed trunk or treat. So I will be dressing up as Sally and my husband will be dressing up as Jack, and we bought a little tombstone with Zero, and I was like, we need to have an actual Zero. So I purchased Mid-Michigan's Maid on Etsy. Her pattern was wonderful. I loved it. It was very easy to follow. You make the bottom and then you make the head and then the ears and the nose and eyes and all that good stuff in the collar. So everything turned out fairly well. I'm pretty sure it only took me 2 days, but that was because I have to work and other things. But it worked up pretty quick. Usually I don't have anything work up this fast when it's like this. So I really loved this pattern and found it very easy. I did have to, I added a little piece, I don't guess you can call this a little rod. It's a wooden rod. It's not very long and it's not very thick, because I found that if I didn't, his head was flopping a little bit, but it creates it so that his head doesn't flop as bad, and I also can kind of have him float around and all that fun stuff. But definitely had fun making him. I kind of am amazed how realistic it actually looks every time I see it. So if you're a fan of Nightmare Before Christmas, definitely check out this pattern and purchase it on Etsy. Very fun and very realistic, I think. Alright, we're going back to those poppets again. So I have 3 different kinds. Let's see how I can prop these up so you guys can see them. So there's 3 different kinds. So this one's the witch one. I just did them in 2 different colors for Halloween, just to kind of make it fun. And it's very similar to the Frankenstein one where it pops up, but it's a little ghost instead. So fun little hat and a little ghost. And then, yeah, these are all ghosts. So this one's got the candy corn top. I think this one was my favorite to make because it was fairly simple and I feel like it worked up pretty quickly too. And then you got the pumpkin one with the pumpkin head. So these are pretty fun. I'm making a whole bunch of these for our trunk or treat at church. So I'll be making a whole bunch just because there's some kids at my church that are a little more sensitive to certain candies, and I wanted to give them another option and not have to worry about the candy, and these are kind of fun. And the googly eyes, I think, add to it as well. It just makes it a little more kid friendly, I find. I can get googly eyes a lot easier just at my Walmart. I hope you enjoyed looking at all the different patterns, and I hope it inspired you guys to make some things for Halloween and even for next year for Halloween. You got plenty of time for next year. I didn't have quite as much time to get you guys for this year because of all the things I have going on. It took a while to get this video going. But drop down in the comments what your favorite was, or what you're thinking about making or want to make in the future. I would love to hear about it. Also hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and click that little bell next to it, because if you do so, you will be notified every time I post a video. So you don't want to miss out on that, because I have a lot of holiday and DIYs coming up for Christmas and for fall. So if you don't want to miss out on that, I will be posting as soon as possible on those. So thank you all for watching, and until the next video, guys, bye.